Hi everyone, I'm Lucy Blakemore and I am the VP for Global Insights at Holland IQ. It is my pleasure to be here today with Richard Coward, who's the CEO of Global Admissions. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Lucy. It's great to be here.
Thank you. We're going to hear from Richard in just a minute, but for those of you who are joining for the first time, this is the East Asia Summit and it's part of a 15 Summit series that we are running at Holland IQ. And so you'll be able to hear from people like Richard and a bunch of other speakers during the sessions as well. So we look forward to sharing those with you. Without further ado, let me hand over to Richard, who's going to share some background about Global Admissions, talk a little bit about where the company has come from, what they're focusing on now, and give us some more context. So let me pass over to you, Richard.
Thanks, Lucy. Hi, guys. So I'm Rich from Global Admissions. So we're an online platform for international students to apply to universities abroad. We started in China for China admissions, helping international students apply to Chinese universities. And now we are helping international students apply to every university around the world. And we work with over 1,500 global universities right now. So this is how we see the market for studying abroad. Basically, it's very messy to apply to universities all around the world. For students, it's a very inefficient market because there's lots of different ways to find information about universities. And the majority of students, even now in 2022, are not making the optimum choice, and they're also wasting a lot of their time, and it's a very inefficient process for them to find out about universities. So they're using a mixture of search platforms, word of mouth, and sub-agents and agents, and then universities directly. For universities all around the world, there's a lot of pressure and targets to attract international students. Universities have different objectives, and they're also trying to diversify their international student numbers. But it's really hard for them to properly navigate the market because it's so complicated. And a lot of universities are wasting a lot of resources and having a bad return on investment in terms of marketing and the whole enrollment and admissions process. And they're also losing out on a lot of potential students that could be ideal for their universities. And it's also increasingly competitive. So it's becoming much more challenging for universities. And then there's also the problem of agents who are having trouble to communicate with all the universities. And so there's a small number of agents who are pushing students to a small number of universities. So it's kind of quite a messy market. So for us, we're a very simple platform which helps students to find and apply to universities on our platform. We're primarily a student-first platform. So students will come onto our platform, find all the information, then apply directly to the universities. And we also work with some sub-agents who recommend their students to us. And then we also have a partnership model with universities where they can do marketing and events on our platform. And so we have the advantage of our platform for them is that we attract a very diverse group of students from all around the world. And we have a number of successful services that we've helped universities increase their marketing with. So this is an example of our platform for a Chinese university where we promote the program, and students can come onto our platform, search all the programs, and then apply directly on our platform. And it's free for students to apply. And then we also have additional services as well. So this is an example of a student who applied by themselves to lots of universities and got rejected everywhere. And then they used our platform and got accepted everywhere. And so it really works really well for students. It just makes the whole process much more simple. And we're also a very important platform for Chinese universities. We work with all of the top Chinese universities and have very successful relationships with them. This is some example of, so we have a range of different services, and this is a couple of examples of some universities where we saw an 84 times return on investment in 2021 when the border was closed. And we have some higher value services as well, and we're seeing extremely good return on investment for universities using our platform. And this is a bit about the student market for students coming to China. There's a few different types of students that come to China. And this is like every market, you have kind of personas of different students that come. And there's like experienced students, students who are looking for scholarship, those that are looking for careers. And so I can also introduce a bit more about this today, how the market in China is and how it's changing, and how it's changed because of COVID and how I see it developing in the future. We've been focusing on China admissions, and we've been growing very fast. Even though the border has been closed in China, we are still growing very fast. And we're actually launched global admissions, which helps universities all around the world. And we have this report, which we're releasing in the end of October. And so if it has information about every single market in the world and all the key facts and information and trends that we see for those markets. So if any of you guys are interested, you can download the guide or register and download the guide on our website, globaladmissions.com/guide. So thank you, Lucy. That's a brief introduction about us.
Awesome. That was super quick, and it's left me with a bunch of questions. I would love you to actually start with the student side of things and just walk us through a little bit more detail on some of those profiles and personas, some of those typical, even the people that you've met and that you've spoken to, who's coming to you and doing this kind of study experience?
Yeah, so for students who are applying to study in China, there's about 500,000 students who are looking to come to China, and there's like a mixture of different types. So about half of them are experienced students. So they're students who come for a short-term program of 6 months or less. And they're like, how I originally came to China is to learn the language or to experience and travel around the country. And so that makes up a big majority of the students that are interested in China. And so, yeah, that's a big part. And then there are other students who are looking to study abroad, such as the education students who are looking to do like a master's degree. And so that would be a lot of the students. So the education students or the career students, they have like different motivations. So it's really important to understand the exact student type when you're doing marketing and when you're doing promotion, and to work out the fit for the students. So for example, what we found is for Chinese students going abroad, a lot of the students looking for Europe are experienced students, and then a lot of the students coming to UK and Canada, for example, are more career students because they're looking to get the visa to work after they graduate. So yeah, it's really interesting to look into each of these kind of students to see what they're interested in, and then put the positioning for them and the process for them.
Yeah, I might ask an unfair question. Obviously, the market has shifted a lot and it's been really changeable. Perhaps notwithstanding, which of those groups, I guess, looking ahead, holds the most promise as far as you're concerned?
Yeah, so at the moment we're like in a pivotal moment because we're been focusing on China, and now we're doing international, so we have quite a mixture of different kinds of students. In terms of China, there's a lot of students who are overseas Chinese who are returning to China right now. And they also, so the biggest group of students coming to China right now are students who have family that may be second generation Chinese who are looking to return to China, so they may be from Canada, Indonesia, Malaysia. It seems to be the biggest group that are going to China. And then international students, I think probably the biggest group that we're seeing are people who want to have a career in the country, or they want to move there for kind of long-term immigration purposes. And we're seeing that's like one of the biggest growth in those two parts. Especially during now after COVID, we're seeing more of that. And also because of the students are learning a lot more online now. So we're seeing it becoming more of like a career move rather than a learning move.
That's really interesting. So understanding more about those different types of students and how they might be changing. But I guess we should even rewind and address the elephant in the room, which is what on earth happened in this part of the education market and the international education market in the last 2 years. And would love to hear your recount from kind of the inbound China market side of things into what you saw happen, some of those shifts, even in terms of the rapid policy changes that we've been seeing in China during this period. So tell us that story from your perspective.
Sure, yeah. So I can introduce first the inbound market and then a bit of the outbound market. So first, when COVID happened, before COVID, there was about 500,000 students who were studying in China. And when COVID happened, most of the students went back to their home country. So there's been and the border has been closed until about in 2020, Korean students were able to come, but no other students could come. And then a few random small countries that have friendly diplomatic relationships with China have been able to come, such as Solomon Islands and Panama, things like that. And then after that, in 24th of August, this year, more students have been able to come back. But still, there's about 5% of we estimate, based on sample sizes, there's about 5% of the pre-COVID numbers of international students in China. So there's about 25,000 or 30,000 or less students that are in China right now. So it's had a pretty big impact on the market mainly because of the COVID policy and the long quarantines for students coming, and the border being completely closed. And we especially saw quite a big impact this year with the Shanghai lockdowns, which had quite a big impact as most of the countries around the world have been open. So we actually saw most of the students who were in China moving to Europe or choosing Europe as a study destination because it's so affordable, or it's relatively affordable, and there are some very cheap programs. So it kind of matches a lot of the countries, like Germany, matches the pricing of China. Apart from living costs a bit higher, but the tuition fee can be free in most of these countries. So we saw a lot of students going there. And right now, the numbers of students coming to China is down. We've basically been growing by doing online events and online courses, which have been growing. So for us as a platform, we've been growing. It's been really challenging for a lot of the students. We've just been trying our best to help the students at this time, because for them, their whole career their whole education has been disrupted. They've had so many challenges. So we've just been trying to give them updates and information and trying to be helpful for them. So that's the inbound market. And it's pretty uncertain because we don't know when students will be able to come. For the outbound market, there's been the COVID situation, and then there's been the policy about the tutoring and education technology companies, which has had quite a big impact on the sector. So we see just a massive increase in digitalization in China for students as they're choosing to. So in terms of the market, we've been looking at the market, which has kind of had different shifts. So for example, UK has been fairly strong. I think students have been deciding to study a bit closer to home. Hong Kong is there's a lot of students going to Hong Kong, Singapore, because it's kind of a bit closer. And then we've seen quite a big shift in the landscape for agents, in terms of the traditional agents are normally they're getting a lot of their students who are coming from the tutoring, and then they're going to study abroad later. But because the tutoring has been basically banned, in China, so it's really changing how the students are choosing to study abroad. And we've done a lot of surveys in the last few months of students, or we've spoken to a lot of students about their whole journey of studying abroad. And we're just seeing increasingly students are turning to social media and turning to friends, and agents are kind of, the role of agents is changing, and students are kind of looking to apply more direct to universities, and they're looking to go online to these social platforms instead of agents. We're seeing quite a shift in terms of that. So that's where we're getting quite a lot of our students, Chinese students, who are looking to study abroad.
Yeah, that's interesting. And for so long, the international education landscape has been dominated by the presence of agents. It's obviously not just a China feature. It's a long-standing feature of the international education landscape. Where does your business model then fit in this shifting landscape?
Yes, so for us, we're online platform where we're kind of a mixture between students who are looking to go direct, but they also want some kind of support. And so there's a mixture of some students who are looking to go direct, and then it's like with other industries, we're seeing, so there are going to be some students who are going to want to use agents, and there are going to be some students who want to go direct, and there's some who are kind of mixture between the two. And so we're like in the middle of those who are looking to go direct, and so they can apply for free on our platform. And then we also have some additional services if they'd like more help. And so for students who want to go direct, they can use our platform as like a free search tool, because we have all of the universities, or a huge number of universities and programs on our platform. And then some of them may choose to apply direct, or some of them may use our platform, and then some of them will upgrade to our services, to our application services. So we're kind of a mixture between those.
It's interesting as I'm listening. I mean, it's a pretty big move to kind of come straight in the middle of this fairly well-established industry. Although if you're going to do it any time, now's a good time to come and do something different. What do you think are some of the dynamics that'll impact how this turns out? I mean, what needs to really change for this to open up and be a market that operates completely differently to how it has the last kind of 20 odd years?
So I think it is changing very fast. I think already students are doing that. They're already going online to do it. So I think it is already changing really fast. And I think universities and agents all know that. And I think the whole market is changing pretty fast. And I think we've seen accelerating change in the last few years from different models. So I think it already is changing pretty fast, from what we're seeing.
Yeah. So if we bring in those other models then, and we know that everybody's been pushing, forced online, and then looking at what their models should be in a world where it's now a mix of things. How does that impact a business that previously was focused on shifting people to a very in-person experience of education? What impact does that very messy blended learning landscape have for you?
Yeah, so I think the whole market is very... Am I still here?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think the market is very, it is very messy. And the reason it's really messy is because it's so fragmented. Even though the whole market, there's so many different countries and they all do things differently. So for us, it's for any company who's trying to tackle it, it's a very challenging market because there's a huge number of different countries and they all have different processes. So it's really important. And so for companies to focus on it, it's very hard. But if you can imagine for universities who have smaller teams, and it's even more challenging for them. So we're really specializing in how to attack all these markets. And so we have we have this guide which is coming out pretty soon, which has a lot of information on each of the markets. Another challenging part about it is that it takes quite a lot of time to learn about the market, because each cycle is like 1 year, instead of an e-commerce business where a cycle is 1 month or even a day. You have these business cycles, so it definitely takes time. But yeah, we have a lot of experience with how it works, and so we're seeing quite fast growth in that.
Yeah. Can you talk a bit more about how you're getting to know, I guess, especially as you move beyond China? And again, you're competing with people who have been deep into many of your competitor markets for many, many years. How are you building those relationships, getting to know both the customers and the stakeholder universities that you're working with across a broader range of markets? What's your approach?
So we're focusing on... so we already have partnerships with over 1,500 international universities. So there's basically most of all of UK, Australia, Canada already. So yeah, the main thing we're focusing on is just the number of students and attracting students. So we're focusing much more on that side of it. And then, yeah, we're seeing that, I mean, the most important part of this market, which is for companies and platforms and universities, is just the satisfaction of students. And that's the most important part of the whole process, is just focusing on the students. And if the students are happy, the universities are happy. And that's kind of how the process works.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look to the future then. Let's look at it first, I guess, from a geographical standpoint. As you're looking at the market where it all started for you and the market you're most familiar with, where do you see international education in the China market going, whether that's inbound and outbound?
Yeah, so it's kind of pretty interesting what's happening in the China market, and it's very difficult to predict right now, because it's difficult to know if this is a trend that's going to continue or if it's going to normalize, like as you would say, as before COVID. So it's very challenging to say. I think you can just look at the trends and you can make a guess. It's a bit uncertain. I would just look at the trends before, and then there's basically there's different policies that are happening, and it could be quite important to look at those policies. There was a target in China of getting 500,000 students by 2020, and now there's a target of getting double first-class universities by 2045, or sorry, 45. 45 double first-class universities by 2050. So this is kind of a shift which is more towards quality rather than quantity of students. And I think that there's less of a focus towards quantity and more towards quality, and making the universities bigger, like more higher ranking, and growing them in a kind of more Chinese style and not in an international style. I see that's how it's going right now.
Yeah. And then how
not
about
necessarily following what universities are doing around the world.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's been some interesting parallel trends in transnational education, and the growth of universities, as a lot of these countries that used to send students abroad are building their own convincingly strong higher education systems, and growing the reputation. So that's going to affect the dynamics, of course, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, the universities have put in a lot of amazing amounts of investment into the universities. So there's a really strong drive to make the universities better in China. So it's similar to the targets to do very well in the Olympics, for example. It's very important for the country to have very highly ranked and top universities, so it can compete in AI and all of these other industries.
Yeah. And so what about for global admissions then? You've been on a journey already. What about the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, so we're growing pretty fast at the moment, and we're adding. We have a lot of universities that we're adding to our platform, and so yeah, we're basically helping, basically focusing right now on a lot of events, online events, and content creation, and as the best platform for students to apply to universities around the world. And so we do that by having the largest number of courses and the best experience for students. So that's really our focus. Just keep improving the platform, making it better for students, and just making what looks like a complicated process as simple as possible, because it doesn't need to be that complicated, really. If you look at the whole process, it should just be really simple and how it works.
Yeah. It's amazing how much we've complicated what can be a very simple journey for students over the years. So it's great to hear removing the frictions and complications back out of that, often with the help of technology. It's great to hear where that's happening. So anything else from you, Richard, that you'd like to share from your perspectives and learnings from this region from the last little while?
Yeah, it's great to talk, to introduce a bit about China and how it's going. Yeah, I think I just hope, although it's been pretty challenging for students with the border being closed, so we just hope we can find ways that we can connect China and the world. We can continue to do that because I think it's really important. Studying abroad is extremely important to make people more connected and for people to understand other countries and understand other cultures. And it's even more important now with what's happening in the world that we continue to find ways to connect people and connect cultures. So yeah, pleased to
Absolutely.
be doing that.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for being part of the East Asia Summit. I know people will be really interested to be looking at this model and to hear from you. So we encourage you to reach out to Richard if you'd like to find out more about what Global Admissions are doing. And I'm sure he'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Lucy.
Thank you.